What's up, viewers, subscribers, and agents alike? It's your boy Enlightened Luciferian Prince coming at y'all once again. Hopefully, everybody's in good health, good wealth, good spirits, maintaining, and not letting the serpent keep draining. Before I proceed, I like to say this: if you're around children, I would like for them to hear this message. Let me keep it clean because this is very important. And these are for the ones who are what we call tomorrow's future. Because something controversial has totally happened, especially around this time, what we call Black History Month. And it's just so convenient that it had to happen at a time like this. But you will not believe this unless you stay up on current events. The state of Florida has literally advanced a bill that would ban making white people feel bad about racism. And no, it's not a joke. This is an article from Vanity Fair, which is just basically giving just an overview. And this is the truth. This is real. The bill would ban public schools and private businesses from inflicting discomfort on people who are designated as white or Caucasian during lessons or training about discrimination. I can't make this stuff up. Quick question for the group. Despite constantly claiming liberals are easily triggered, or what they have now coined as a term that has literally been entered into a modern day dictionary called Snowflake, are Republicans the most ridiculously sensitive people on earth? So much that they can't stand the idea of factually accurate conversations about what we consider as far as race relations in this country that might paint white people in an uncomfortable light, and are now going so far as to try to effectively ban said conversations. Because sticking their fingers in their ears and yelling, la, 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 I can't hear you, when the topic comes up isn't working. If you're unsure, let it be cleared up for you. The answer is yes. This was on January 21st, but it's advanced through the month of February, present day. On Tuesday, a bill backed by Florida Governor Robert DeSantis that will prohibit public schools and private businesses from inflicting discomfort on white people during lessons about training about discrimination was actually approved by the State Senate Education Committee. Its first hurdle before becoming a law. The bill, which if you look it up, is called Senate Bill 148, seemingly grew out of the conservative hysteria over what we call critical race theory, which, as a reminder, is an academic concept based on the idea that racism is not about an individual's people's prejudices, but about institutions and policies. It does not, as GOP lawmakers and their partners in the right-wing media would have you to believe, teaching that all white people are racist, which is totally not a general assertion. But we will say that it has been a part of America's history. As another reminder, teaching CRT is not actually being required in even any elementary, middle, or high school. But you wouldn't know that by watching Fox News, which would have viewers believe that teachers are telling so-called Caucasian kindergartners to turn over their allowances as reparations. Where did that come from? Have no clue. The bill sponsored by State Senator Mandy Diaz Jr. reads in part, an individual by virtue of his race, of his or her race or sex does not bear responsibility for actions committed in the past by other members of the same race or sex. An individual should not be made to feel discomfort, guilt, or anguish, or any other form of psychological distress on account of his or her race. Right? Democrats have argued that such a bill would lead to frivolous lawsuits and basically equate to censorship. When asked for real-life examples of schools or businesses telling students or employees that they are inherently racist because of the color of their skin, their Republican counterparts could come up with none. This bill is not for what they consider blacks. I don't refer to myself as that in this country. This bill was not for any other race, said State Senator Shervin Jones. This was directed to make Caucasians not feel bad about what happened years ago, which pretty much, if you agree with me, still happens to this day. At no point did anyone say white people should be held responsible for what happened. But what I would say, if you ask your Caucasian counterparts, is, are you an enabler of what happened, or are you going to say we must talk about history? At a news conference last month, DeSantis, who has designs on White House in 2024, calls critical race theory crap, and vowed to pass legislation allowing parents to sue schools and employees to sue employers if they are made to listen to such a thing. Asked for comment by CBS News, which I abbreviate in my personal, view of things. It's constant bull, You put it together yourself with the S. The governor's spokeswoman reiterated DeSantis' embarrassing comments for the same news conference, which he suggested that Martin Luther King Jr. would be for all these Republican bills. You think about what MLK stood for. He said that he did not want people to be judged on the content of their skin or the content of their character. DeSantis said at the time, you listen to some of these people nowadays, they don't talk about that. Really? Naturally, the governor, like other MLK quoting Republicans, chose not to focus on the fact that King regularly reminded America of the racist roots and said things like that. The Republican Party geared its appeal and program to racism, reaction, and extremism. Anyway, as MSNBC's Jahan Jones noted, the whole bill is about prioritizing Caucasian hypersensitivity over truthful teachings. I'll say that one more time. It is this. The whole bill is about prioritizing white hypersensitivity over truthful teachings and saying lessons about America's racist and sexist past are acceptable only if they don't offend white people. And according to Jones, and nothing new, to me, the new demands for field teacher fragile whiteness sound like a re-up of the black codes. Laws instituted during and after the Civil War to enforce white supremacy in some states. The codes permitted capital punishment against black people for minor crimes like petty theft, allowing whippings for vagrancy and swearing, and banned black land ownership. Florida's particularly harsh codes allow white people to beat black workers for disrespect, as historian Jarrell H. Schaffner wrote in his 1976 essay on the state's racist laws. Historian Joe M. Richardson wrote that while Floridians passed the codes out of fear that the racism was crumbling around them. It seems like DeSantis and Florida's GOP-led legislature are operating with a similar fear. They see the facade of white supremacy, weak as it is, crumbling under the weight of high school lesson plans and workplace trainings. And bills like SB 148 are sad attempts to piece that facade back together. That's why, if white parents complaining about black authors aren't enough, it's clear that Florida's bill is designed to coddle white people, even though it doesn't mention them specifically. Incidentally, Florida bill's approval of the State Senate Education Committee comes to the same month that Indiana held a hearing about its proposed Senate Bill 167, which would ban divisive concepts in classrooms, and 3 months after Texas school superintendent was compelled to apologize, one of the district administrators telling teachers that if their classroom had a book about the Holocaust, they should also provide students with access to a book containing an opposing perspective with the systemic killing of approximately a few million Jewish people. This is the reason why I explain to a lot of melanated people. Take two things into consideration. They only banned schools, which are public indoctrination centers anyway, and private businesses about teaching about it. That in and of itself proves to you that it's systemic. Because if it's public, that's a part of the state. If it's private, it's still a part of the state, but you still have to go by that particular code. What should that tell you to do? Teach your own children the truth about what really took place. See, we live in a culture in this country which lives by what I call the social guilt complex. It's always when they feel socially guilty that it's, oh, well, that was so long ago. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. No, it was not. It's still a part of the fabric of this social culture to this very day. If you peruse social media like I do, trust me, you look in comment sections on multiple platforms, it's there. However, what I've learned from growing in my journey, as far as becoming a mature man and individual particularly, aside from it, is that I learned that people who practice that type of behavior are inherently cowards because they base their logic upon fear. You're only fearful because that fear has been passed down to those particular counterparts, not all, just far many, to being accountable for the things that have been done to a lot of people. That has happened within the 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, 20s, 10s, 1900s, all the way back. That's not a long time ago. Trust me. It's people who still literally probably own coins from that era. I know it because I used to deal with coin collecting when I was a teenager. It was one of my little things I used to like to do. But yeah, not that long ago. The illusion, though, is to try to make people believe that it wasn't that long ago, but it's a present situation that happens more and more subtly if you pay close attention. And the only thing that can ever shield your children, particularly for adults, that wish to embellish upon your children's education, is to inform them about what took place. See, me, growing up, I've been an avid reader literally my whole life. My whole life. I don't think I'll ever stop reading. Like, that's just what I do. Math sucks, but reading is good. But anyway, truth be told, I ain't fucking math. I can't stand it. But, excuse my language. But anyway, it's one of those situations where I had to learn how to teach myself because I knew for a fact that things like this, I knew it inherently within my spirit that things like this would happen. I just knew it. Like, they're going to want you to stop learning certain stuff. And once you take something out of the intrinsic part of history, then it's forgotten. It's laws. So it's like it gives potentiality for the cycle to repeat itself. But here's a glimmer of hope through the darkness. You know what I'm saying? Through the ignorance. A very true fact is that, notice what it said: public school and private businesses. But see, that's why we have platforms that we can basically educate each other to know that, particularly, yes, there are atrocities that have been exposed. And if you're hypersensitive about it, first off, if you feel as if you didn't participate in it, what do you have to worry about? Why is it inherently so-called disdain that you don't want future generations to learn about how this was? I know what it is. It's a control mechanism. It's basically saying, I don't want them to know what I did because maybe I might be accountable for that in some degree. That's very immature. That's a very immature way to look at education. Because in order for any sort of people or anybody to live in agreement, you have to be properly educated about it. So, parents, I implore you to educate your children about the history of what took place. But I know that as traumatizing as it was for me growing up, looking at pictures of lynchings and which is basically homicide. But when you look at those pictures, just look at how many people were actually gathered around that body swinging on that tree. And just think about if 5,000 to 8,000 people showed up to that spectacle, how many of them do you think live among us to this day? Yeah, that part. That part. And people find that so hard to believe. But you're responsible for the education of your next generation. Education, generation, same thing. Want to know the same? In less than 18 minutes. See, the whole idea behind what I'm finishing up my point on, if you had nothing to do with that stuff, what you worried about? Or do you want to help it keep progressing? And no one says nothing about it. See, they know that a new generation is coming up, and they know that there's going to be a total mental revolution. So they have to hide certain things. Laws do not stop people from learning. You can pass the bill all you want. Who cares? But as long as they have access to the internet, as long as they have access to the knowledge, as long as they have access to what they need to, we don't have to talk about it in public. But we'll definitely keep it private and silent. So when we know, when we're approached by it, we know how to deal with it accordingly. There's nothing done in the dark that won't come to the light. So we don't have to discuss anything. As long as we are informed about it, we'll know how to deal with it if it happens again. Peace, light, love. Y'all take care. Pardon me if my camera lapsed. It's the visual focus from the ring light. But yeah, that's how you do it. You know? But I just think it's very sad that it's like you just want to take so much pain and suffering and try to sweep it under the rug like it never happened. This wouldn't be what it is if it didn't happen. But it happened. And you're not going to get away with it. Because there's a universal judge that's going to make sure, a universal judge is going to make sure that you definitely don't get away with it. So if that makes you uncomfortable, flee back to the hills. Because nonetheless, judgment doesn't tarry, nor does it lack. It comes. Y'all take care. To the next video. Peace.